information session. Today, we're going to cover some basic eligibility and other overview of the program just to support you as you apply. So with that, I'll briefly introduce myself. My name is Kathleen Farrick, and I am a community development representative with Neighborhood Equity and Stabilization, which is part of the City of Denver's Denver Economic Development and Opportunity. I will pass it over to my teammate, Carla.
Thank you, Kathleen. Hi, everyone. My name is Carla Castedo Rivero, and I'm the Director of Economic Mobility under the same team as Kathleen, Neighborhood Equity and Stabilization, and happy to be here. And I'll pass it over to Jen.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer Martin. I work at NewSed Community Develop Corporation, and we are the subgrant or the grantee who will be helping all of you with this program. I work on the accounting and bookkeeping side and also help with some tech support.
Thank you both. So we can go to the next slide, please. All right, so as far as what this presentation is going to cover, so like I said, we're going to provide an overview of what exactly neighborhood equity, or excuse me, the neighborhood activation program is, our goals, eligibility, the ways in which funding can be used, as well as what we're really trying to prioritize in those funding decisions. Also share the program timeline, reporting requirements, and then go into an online application demonstration so you can have some familiarity with what that will look like. And then we'll speak briefly to the Denver Office of Special Events and some of their tips for those of you who are planning events. And next slide. All right, so what exactly is the Neighborhood Activation Program? So first off, it is funded through ARPA, so the Federal American Rescue Plan Act, and that's the COVID relief dollars that are provided to, in this case, the city of Denver, to really support those communities who are really hit the hardest by the COVID pandemic to ensure an equitable recovery. So with that, our grants will be between $20,000 to $200,000, so quite a range. And the events or beautification projects are really what we're really looking to fund for events and beautification projects are those that really focus on increasing economic activity in business corridors. So we really want to see that increased foot traffic and just really trying to support community members going out into the small business corridors to in turn support the small businesses who were, again, disproportionately impacted by the COVID pandemic. So as far as those events, a lot of opportunity to be creative. So performances, walking tours, festivals, etc. And then for beautification projects, so various placemaking activities that could include public art, murals, landscaping, planters, banners and decorations, signage, business wayfinding, just to name a few. So those are, just a couple of examples. And again, I do just really want to emphasize the importance of business corridor activation. That is really what this funding is all about, is to ensure that those small businesses that are in the specific corridors are supported in recovery and have in hope with the idea of more increased foot traffic, so people will shop locally and generate that economic activity. And next slide, please. So as far as the program goals, it's really to activate Denver Neighborhood Recovery Index Map business corridors through events and beautification projects to increase economic activity. And that index map, I will pull it up and demonstrate what we're talking about as far as which neighborhoods are eligible for funding. So just so you know, many neighborhoods in Denver meet this criteria. So just hold tight and we'll talk about that more soon. Really want to see community collaboration and connecting neighborhood residents and businesses. Something I also want to really emphasize is that when we talk about collaboration, we really want to see some degree of, active shared decision making between maybe the folks who are, directly organizing the event, and then the community, and what level of involvement community members have really had. We really want to see the community voice and participation as very much centered in these projects. So that's just something really important to keep in mind, and something we'll really be looking at. We want to, again, encourage community members to eat and shop locally, and with the hope that that will in turn boost small business revenue. Next slide, please. Okay, so as far as that eligibility piece, so community groups who have fiscal sponsors are eligible, so you don't necessarily have to be a nonprofit. Obviously, nonprofits are eligible, as well as businesses, and they must be located in those pre-qualified areas as identified on that index with a score equal to or less than 0.89. I will demonstrate that. It's actually quite simple to look up your neighborhood and see what that score is, whether it is above that threshold or below it. You must also be registered with the Colorado Secretary of State's office and engaged in activities that are legal under Colorado and federal law, of course, as well as be in good standing with local, state, and federal taxing and licensing authorities. Next slide. Additionally, only one project per group may be submitted. Projects that impact a corridor versus an individual business. This is something else that's really important to underscore. We really want to ensure, again, that collaboration is happening, and that if there is say a block party, or if there is a mural or public art, we don't want to fund projects that are only benefiting a single business or a single entity. We want it to benefit the corridor as much as possible. Awardees are required to participate in trainings, progress meetings, and complete reporting. And that will all be communicated to you very clearly by NewsEd. And it's really crucial that there are open lines of communication between awardees and NewsEd, just to ensure that projects are on track, or if there are delays, that there are ways that maybe potentially we can support you. So those things are just really important to know, that there will be a lot of checking in, and just, again, in order to support the successful execution of the projects. And funding is intended for new events and beautification projects. So we really want to be funding events or activities that would not be happening without this funding. So just because we want to give the opportunity for an event that wouldn't, otherwise there wouldn't be funding or resources for. We'd really like this funding to ensure that those things can happen. For those events that said, it is possible to still be eligible if it's a recurring event. However, we really need to know what is new about this second iteration of the event, what it has been improved upon, built upon, etc. So again, we really want to see the new. However, if you can speak to what is new about your event that is recurring, then that would also be sufficient. Also, awardees will be required to be registered with sam.gov and have a unique entity identifier, UEI, before receiving NAP funding. And that is something that NewsEd helps us with a lot. So that might don't be daunted by that. That's something that you will be supported through with getting that registration. Additionally, in this, for some actually didn't make it onto the slide, but really want to be sure that everyone knows that in order for a project to be eligible, it must be completed by September 30th, 2024. So that is the absolute when the project must be completely closed out. So that's something very important to keep in mind for your planning. Something else really important to mention, and it goes along with funding being intended for new events or projects is that this project is not meant for ongoing programming. And that could mean, for instance, if a nonprofit is already offering specific community support services, or maybe it's a monthly get together in their specific space, that really doesn't tie to it. How does that tie to the generating economic activity? How does that tie to the intentions of the program? So what we're really trying to ensure that that funding is not the appropriate use. So as an example, a community group is working in partnership with several small businesses to design and create a mural in the neighborhood's business corridor that highlights the unique nature of the community. So that shows the collaboration, that shows that it's about a economic or a business corridor. So that would be an example of an appropriate use or recipient of the funds. Getting to that ongoing programming that we're trying to avoid. For example, a local nonprofit hosts monthly programming for residents and families focused on promoting access to supportive services. So this is an example of an ongoing and existing program. So it's already happening, and it's not focused on activating business corridors. So just to provide some concrete examples there of what we're looking for. Next slide, please. Okay, so just to go over these approved uses and then the ineligible. So for approved, again, signage, labor costs. So that could be supplementation of staff salary for event coordination, for instance, or any staff time that is needed in order to carry out the project or the event. That would be eligible. Project materials and supplies, marketing and community engagement, language access expenses to make sure the project is accessible, and then art and decorations. So those would all be approved uses. And then for ineligible uses, so number one, and again, this is something I really, really want to emphasize, we are not funding any projects, any beautification projects that require a construction permit. It's just outside of the purview of this funding and what we're able to support. So please keep that in mind. Also, you cannot use the funding to pay for city permits. We can support you most likely in getting permit fees waived, but through working with us once you've been awarded. But just know that the funding itself can't be used to pay the city for permits. Then ongoing and operating and general expenses, so rent, utility bills, salaries, etc., and salaries that are unrelated to the project or the event. Ongoing programming, I already mentioned that. Unfortunately, we can't use any funding for food or drinks. That is a federal requirement. So, obviously, activities that are not related to the program or unaligned to the goals, activities that are unlawful or don't have the required permits. And then again, activities that solely focus on one entity. So one business versus the business corridor. And that is, again, because we are trying to foster collaboration through this funding. All right, and then next slide. So as far as what we are prioritizing in terms of funding, so just to clarify, the eligibility that I already went through, that is all required. You have to meet that eligibility in order to be considered. The priorities, these are things that we are looking to fund. However, you are still encouraged to apply if you don't fit neatly into our funding priorities necessarily. So first off, we are prioritizing projects in the priority nest neighborhoods. I will read those off there because we have some new ones added. So Athmar Park, Barnum, Barnum West, Clayton, College View, East Colfax, Globeville, Elyria, Swansea, Kennedy, Lincoln Park, Montbello, Marlee, Ruby Hill, Sun Valley, Valverde, Villa Park, Westwood, and Windsor. We also are prioritizing organizations who did not receive NAP funding in 2022, so in our last round of funding. And the intention with that is to be equitable with the funding and to ensure that, maybe organizations who didn't get the funding last time have the chance, will be prioritized this time around. That said, we still highly encourage people who did receive funding last time to reapply, with one caveat. You must have, if you did receive funding last round, you must be totally closed out on your project, on your spend down in order to be eligible, in order to apply. So again, this is only relevant to those organizations who got funding last round. We are also prioritizing projects delivered by the end of this year, so December 31st, 2023. Projects that prioritize historically marginalized populations. So wanting to, again, that goes in line with ensuring that the funding is focused on supporting people who are most disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. And then again, projects that demonstrate collaboration and community involvement. So where is the community voice in the project? That is something we will be looking at and considering really closely. So with that, now I am ready to demonstrate what it's going to look like with when you do go to the ARPA neighborhood index map. So let me go ahead and share my screen. All right. So hopefully folks can see that. So this is what the map looks like. And just so you know, it is a heat map. So the darker blue areas, that indicates where there was more disproportionate impact. So in other words, those are the areas that are either our nest neighborhoods and are certainly going to be eligible for funding. The parts of the map that are like are white, those indicate neighborhoods that didn't have the same level of disproportionate impact, so are most likely ineligible. So with that, I'm just going to just click on a couple of them. So just so you get so say, I live in Globeville. I'm going to click right on Globeville, and then just be sure that you navigate down to these little arrows. And the only number that that is relevant is the top. So what is the full index score? And this is 0.75. So as a reminder, anything at or below 0.89 is eligible. So this neighborhood would certainly be eligible. It is also a nest neighborhood, so would be prioritized. And then in contrast, I'm going to go to the Overland neighborhood, and that is just barely ineligible. So again, that full index score is 0.9, which is just over the 0.89 threshold. Then we can give you one more example. Okay, so for Windsor, this is actually also a nest neighborhood, a new nest neighborhood, and that score is 0.84. And would also be eligible based on the 0.89. So hopefully that's pretty straightforward. And yeah, with that, my part of the presentation has concluded. So I am going to pass it along to Carla and stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Kathleen. As you all are waiting, let me go ahead and find the PowerPoint once again. Okay. All right. So just to repeat the information for the program timeline, the application did open on June 13th and it will close on July 17th. And the grant term goes from ends on September 30th, 2024, and it starts whenever your project starts. The reporting requirements that we must abide by are reporting monthly and also doing check-ins monthly with our partner NewsEd. We will require a final project report And some of the criteria for that reporting will include the marketing materials, project progress, the proposed outcomes, and into the actuals of what happened with your event or your project, the narrative on the outcomes, any pictures that you have from before the event or before the project and after, and also a financial report. And apologies here. Okay, these reporting requirements will be detailed in the award packet. So if you were to get selected, we will send you a packet that you can review and you can be prepared for as you're taking your events and your projects through. Here are a few of the photos that we have from previous awardees for 2022. And so as you can see, there are some community events in East Colfax. There's very community oriented, mural paintings, community gathering. Really what we're looking for are activation of areas within the neighborhoods that Kathleen has mentioned. So these are great examples of those. Okay. Now I'll go ahead and walk you through how to complete the application. And I actually will stop sharing this screen and walk you through the application myself. Okay. Can you see the screen or no?
Not yet.
Okay. Can you see now?
There it is. Yep.
Okay, great. Okay. So as you all know, the application will be included in our page, in the Neighborhood Activation Program page, where you can look at the overview, the eligibility, again, the application, and then the contact. Cece is part of the NewsEd team, and so just wanted to call her in as she's an integral part of our team. And so her information is there too. And all you have to do really is go to the application link, click on Start Your Application. And I have already created an account, but if you haven't created an account, then you go ahead and go to sign up. So all you would need for that is your email address and your password. Since I've already created that, I'll just go ahead and log in. Okay. What the first window that will appear for you is going to be a profile window where you will go ahead and share information about the person who's filling out the application. So of course, name, last name, your contact information, also information about the organization, what industry it is, how many staff members you have. If there's at any point you don't have information on what the NAICS code is, for example, then you can always utilize the resources and click on the links that we have provided for you. And then the same thing with the NTEE code, where you can click out of that and find that information for yourself. So I'm going to go ahead and just say save changes, as I've already put that information there. And then after that, it will take you to another page where you can click to enter to the application. So really important to note is that here in the right-hand side, it does give you information on how many days are remaining for the application. At the time of this recording, there are 11 remaining days to submit this. I had already completed the application, so I'm going to go ahead and press edit. And the application is just a test, so you all know. But this is a good reference for you to check back into on as far as what you need, any type of important dates, the general information, eligibility, everything that Kathleen has already mentioned, program priorities, and eligibility. And if you wanted to know a little bit more about NEST. This is really helpful information that you can also look into, supporting documentation that you will need to complete the application. A lot of this information is for you to provide as an additional. Complete applications, and the more information that you provide, of course, will help your application be more competitive. And so if you have any type of materials for marketing plans or estimates about your vendors or invoicing contracts that you have used, or that you will use and you're planning to, any type of permitting information, as you know, we need to have events that are set and that are not in the process of permitting yet, or that have gone through that process already. And then also any letters of support. We always ask that you review the information before submitting, making sure that everything's complete. And apologies about this. I think actually throughout the application, you'll see test in my screen, but I'll walk you through what we really are expecting from each answer. So for about your project, this is all information, of course, about your project. You can select whether it's a new project or existing project, whichever applies to you. When you've made that selection, then you also have the opportunity to select whether it's an event or a beautification project. There are questions on what to select if it's the two, right? Like if the two elements are applicable, and the best thing that we can tell you is select whichever applies the best to you. So even if there's an event with beautification elements, then select event. And if it's a beautification project that has an event, you know, if the majority part of the funds are going to be used for that project in beautification, then just go ahead and select whichever applies to you. The project name would be the project that's publicly mentioned. And then the brief description of the structure and proposed activity. Here, really, you should be providing a description of any new or of any elements of the project. So, you know, quick description of what the proposed activity is. Make sure that you're mentioning the overall goal of your event or project and the activities that will be offered to the community wherever it's applicable. So for example, if it's a beautification project, how will that project benefit the community as well? If you'd like to include dates, the partners, definitely that's appropriate. And there's more space below for those types of specifics. So don't feel like you have to fill everything out here. There is a character limit of 50 to 250 words. And so just succinct to the point will be okay. Here, uploading a photo of the location area that you want to activate. It could include a business corridor, a specific, buildings again that would benefit the community. Anything prior to the activation project or event. Here, there's a possibility for you to upload any type of supporting documentation. So whether it's an estimate for the vendor, marketing materials, if there's something that's not mentioned here, you can always select a file to upload and upload it. Indicating if a project evaluation is being conducted, please go ahead and state to your best of your knowledge whatever funding is being requested for this project. And then also if you're using any type of federal funds to carry on the project. If you select yes, then we will ask you how much, right? How much is part of the federal funding, and then also what is the source. So it could be CDBG, CDBG-CV, or any other that you can go ahead and list. For example, if I list 100,000 and select other, then I can go ahead and state what the other funding source is. You will have to fill out a budget form that Jen will definitely walk you through, but you can go ahead and just click on the link and fill it out and upload it here. The period of performance start date is when all of the planning, anything related to the project will begin. the performance end date is when everything is done, including the reporting. So that's an estimate of when you'll be complete with the project. And then the anticipated event project date is when the project will publicly be launched. So there's definitely a difference when the performance starts and then when the project's actually launched publicly to the community. And so if it's a series of events, you can go ahead and put in the very first time that the project will be launched, and then you can go ahead and put in the other dates below, and you can enter in, right, whatever applies. So it's a workshop, this is the launch, and provide as many specifics as you'd like. We definitely want to know that if your project is located within the tract of our recovery index score of equal to or less than 0.89. And you can definitely verify by clicking on this link, and it's the map that Kathleen had walked you through. Here it's entering the physical location of your project. So this is where the project is going to be taking place. If your organization, for example, is in Montbello and your project is going to be taking place in Globeville, then you would put in the address of Globeville here, of that neighborhood. Again, where the neighborhood and also the city district of where your project is taking place. Here, we also provide an opportunity for you to put in what corridor, or if there's a specific corridor that your organization or your business is taking the project to. The corridors, again, there's a link here where you can see what corridors we're speaking of. And here, information about your organization, your address, all of that really simple information that you can add on. Here, we definitely want to make sure that if you do have partnerships with or collaborations with any other businesses or organizations, we provide a space here where you can list how many, you can list the organizations, the business or the community groups. And in addition to that, you can list the contact number and and also the roles, right, and responsibilities. So each square or each box has a purpose, and where you can build from and list information about your collaborations. So we really want you to be clear, right? If I'm working with Kathleen's organization, then what role does Kathleen's organization have? Or, and then Jen's organization, what role does her organization have here? Now, here, we're asking what ways you anticipate your project will be supported, will support increased economic activity in the neighborhood. And you can select one or as many as apply. And if it's not included here, you can definitely describe and select other. Information about the impact, so projected count of businesses, the people that would be served, and then also if you're working with the Office of Special Events, and if you need any help navigating city permitting. For the equity work section, we definitely want to make sure that we're asking, and as much as possible, that we can identify if you're working with historically marginalized communities, or if they will be served throughout this project. If your project supports the communities, then let us know how. And then also any actions that you're taking to ensure that the project is accessible or that the event is accessible. So for example, Kathleen mentioned, right, language justice, right, is a really easy way of making things accessible, but there are other ways depending on whatever's applicable to your event. Now, this is optional demographic information as far as who is the head, who's filling out this information, and the organization leader. So whatever applies to you and whatever you want to provide us here or provide us with here. If your business is a multi-generational family business, please go ahead and name it. If it's passed down, it's same with the organization. If there's any type of language other than English that you'd like to, that you prefer, then you can also state it here. And if the business or organization is an English language learner, please let us know. And let us know if your leadership in terms of board is representative of the populations that will be served in the program and the project that you're requesting funding to. Quickly, additional organization details really talks about when your entity was formed, the name of your or the type of your entity. So whether it's a community-based organization or nonprofit or business, if you have a website, social media accounts, again, if it's a multi-generational business. Something that we really must say here is that if you are a community-based organization and you have a fiscal sponsor, you will have to provide information on your fiscal sponsor for your SAMS number, and we could definitely talk through that if you need any information. Also with your unique entity identifier. We'll ask questions about your annual operating budget. And again, if it's a community-based organization that doesn't have this information, then we would be looking to your fiscal agent. After all of that is filled out, then these are some attestations that you can read through and see if you agree with them and verify that you understand and that you agree or that you certify. And that's it as far as the application. I will start sharing, being mindful of time, I will start sharing the PowerPoint really quick so we can get back to that. And then just share a few notes with you. So again, there's an opportunity for you to upload documentation that includes letters, of recommendation, marketing materials, and plans. These are optional, but they will definitely help make your application more competitive. Good things to keep in mind is that once you hit submit, you cannot modify or upload documents. If it's past the deadline, you can actually go back and edit, but you must go ahead and hit submit to make sure that your application is in fact submitted. And you will know because you will receive an automated email letting you know that we have received and your application has been submitted. Okay. Apply as soon as possible. Again, the deadline is July 17th. We do have language interpreters that are available if you need assistance to complete the application. If you do need to request language interpretation, please do so with at least 5 days of business for advance notice. And you can always call Cece at 303-534-8342 or email her at ccervantes@newsed.org. And if you need any type of assistance for language interpretation or real-time captioning, then here's information of where you can contact. And so what I would do is take a screenshot of this page so that you have that readily available. Okay. I think, is this back to you, Kathleen?
So I can definitely, I will take that, but first I'm going to hand it over to Jen to go ahead and cover the budget spreadsheet.
Perfect.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and share. Okay, so this is the budget spreadsheet that you will download from the application. So I'll give you just a quick run through. You'll see here there are 4 different tabs on the bottom. The first tab is general instructions. So if you have any questions about how to fill out the form, this is the first place to come, and it will tell you what we expect to see in each of the fields. So for example, on the budget summary, you can see the A, B, C, D, or the 1, 2, 3 here. Everything has a letter or a number associated with it. So if you're unclear what to put in a field, you can come over here and find the corresponding letter or number, and it'll tell you. Also, anything that is yellow is a place where we expect you or give you the opportunity to fill something out. You might not have every single yellow field filled out, and that's fine. But those are the fields that we have left open for you. So for example, if we jump to this tab for the budget summary, we're going to ask for the respondent name. So this is probably the person who is filling out the application online. So it would be their name, the name of the organization, the name that you're calling your project, and the total project cost that you are. This doesn't necessarily have to be what you're requesting, but it's the total project cost. And then there's a breakdown here where we can talk about how much is going to be NAP's share and how much you might be receiving from other funding sources. And then here, of course, here's also the NAP requested amount. Here in these columns, we are asking for these different items, so personnel, office expenses, marketing, etc. If you are expecting to receive funding from a federal source to support personnel, that you enter that here, another non-federal source, or another source of funding from the City and County of Denver, that you fill that out here. Here is the date and the signature of the official respondent for your organization, and their name again and their title. I'm going to jump to personnel budget and just let you know that these three here, these will be auto-populated from these fields here. So if I enter new SED here, it'll show up over here, so you won't have to fill those out again. If you are looking for some funding for personnel for your project, this is where you'll fill that out. So you'll put the position or title and the employee name if you currently have an employee who's going to be working on this job for this project, what their hourly rate is, and what the total cost of their time will be for this project, and then what NAP's share of that cost will be, and then a brief summary of job responsibilities. And as a reminder, if you have any questions or forget what you need to fill out here, you can come back to the General Instructions tab, and it has it all broken down for you here. Next, I'll go to the non-personnel budget. So again, the top section will be auto-populated from the Budget Summary tab. And we're looking here for detailed explanations for each line item. So this is where we really get into the nitty-gritty of how you would spend the funds if you were awarded the project. So we have a few breakdowns here: office expenses and supplies, marketing, rentals. These all match up with the budget summary over here. So there will be section totals that will go and fill in for the first page. So let me just scroll down. Fees, insurance, subcontractors, other direct costs, and indirect costs. We also have a little section for if there is a fiscal sponsor fee. And then all of this will be totaled up at the bottom. We want to know what the line item is here. So possibly this would be, let me go to marketing, maybe flyers you would put here, and the total cost for this project would be $1,000. In this case, let's say I'm expecting NAP would pay for all of that. I don't have any other funding source. I'd put that here, and then I might say in a line item description, printed flyer, and so on and so forth. And if you have more things, you can add a line here by right-clicking, insert a row, and keep adding whatever you have that's applicable for each category. So there's lots of room for you to do that there. And then here you'll see it's totaled up what I have here. If we go back to the budget summary, it'll have $1,000 here. So if I don't have anything else for other funding sources, we expect NAP to share 100% of this cost, and that would be $1,000. So this will start to fill out as you fill out the other sections. And again, as a reminder, if you have any questions, you can check the General Instructions tab, or if you really get stuck, you can talk to us at NewSed, and we'll be happy to talk with you about how to fill it out. So I'll give it back to Kathleen.
Great. Thanks so much, Jen. Let's see. Would you mind pulling up the PowerPoint again, Carla?
Sure thing. Let me go ahead and do that
Thank
right
you.
now.
Awesome. Thank you. One other thing I really that I definitely want to mention before we get into this last little stretch is that the neighborhood activation program funding is on a reimbursement basis. So you will work. That's something else that's really important about the amazing work and role that NewsEd plays is they'll really support you in putting together those invoices and helping you navigate that process. Of course, also with support from the city of Denver as well. So just wanted to mention that just so you know that just like all other most other city funding, that it is on a reimbursement basis, but that is something that we do have the resources to support you with. So now I'm going to transition into the last little bit, and that is about permitting. So this is permitting that is specific to events. So we are working in collaboration with the Office of Special Events just to ensure that you have as seamless of a process as possible to get those permits for your event if needed. So just a couple tips from them. Please don't be late with the application or permit submissions. So you'll avoid rush and late fees. Just, starting to work on that, or at least getting the looking into the relevant information that you will need as soon as possible. Just something to keep in mind as you're planning your event. Road closures can be very difficult. They can be expensive. Potential conflicts with construction and street repairs, access, for instance, to driveways, parking lots need to be maintained. So one thing that the office mentions is you could consider holding your event in a park or private property or a community building to avoid that. Then Denver Police and other city resources may be limited on holiday weekends, as a note. Next slide, please. Next slide, please, Carla. Thank you. All right, so certificates of insurance are required and they can be expensive. Much easier if alcohol is not included. Then keep food distribution easy, requires less oversight. So yeah, we will also be sharing all of these resources online, so you can certainly refer later. And then just the importance of being flexible. So you might have to adjust your plans to accommodate deadlines and available resources, funds, and volunteer support. And then next slide. So yes, the Office of Special Events, they have a lot of resources that are listed in this PowerPoint. So an event planning guide, their website, a checklist. If you do have specific questions, we can certainly connect you to the Office of Special Events as well, or you can certainly reach out via phone or email. So with that, I think we are on to the last slide, I believe. Great. So if you do have questions, you are welcome to direct those to CC Cervantes. Her contact information is below. And thank you all so much for joining us to get information about the program. And we are really excited to receive your proposals and to learn and to just see all the amazing work that happens with neighborhood activation this year. Thank you so much.